Good morning, everybody, to the Open Hearts and Minds Fellowship's second Sunday service. I'm Robin Loving, a member of our Sunday service team, and today we invite you to summon a renaissance of wonder, beginning with the words of E. Merrill Root. We need a renaissance of wonder. We need to renew in our hearts and in our souls the deathless dream, the eternal poetry, the perennial sense that life is miracle and magic. You might be wondering why we're asking you to contemplate wonder. As many of you know, we've been forming this fellowship for a couple of years now. Together, we wondered what it would become. We formed it. We transformed it. Now, finally, we have it as we want it, but it's not static. Together, we have made it dynamic. Last month, we examined how we have awakened, grown, and now are on our path. This month, we want to make sure we continue to explore with a sense of wonder how we want to evolve. We invite you to sit back, take a breath, and enjoy this Enya video, which calls on our sense of wonder. Wow. That gave me chill bumps all the way up into my head. And here's a teaser for you. Later on, when we are chatting with one another at community time, you will learn, if you ask the right questions, that somebody in our midst has actually been to Enya's home in another country. So I hope you enjoyed that and found something in the words, in the music, and the graphics to open your hearts and minds to wonderment. Now, here's Susan to expound on Ferlinghetti's timeless words about a renaissance of wonder.
Thank you, Robin. Renaissance of wonder, indeed. Many years ago, Lawrence Ferlinghetti wrote a poem, I Am Waiting, which focuses on hopeful change for better with respect to the United States and its complicated identity. War, peace, religion, God, the environment, television, the media, the grapes of wrath, and poetry. It's all here in a long, unpunctuated poem. It's Ferlinghetti's emphatic list of romantic, idealistic aspirations for a state of wonder to be reborn. For a poem that is 60 years old, from a legendary poet who actually lived to be 102, it still resonates with young and old and everything in between. So here we go. Without further ado, I Am Waiting by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. I am waiting for my case to come up, and I'm waiting for a rebirth of wonder, and I am waiting for someone to really discover America and wail. And I am waiting for the discovery of a new symbolic Western frontier. And I'm waiting for the American eagle to really spread her wings and straighten up and fly right. And I'm waiting for the age of anxiety to drop dead. And I'm waiting for the war to be fought, which will make the world safe for anarchy. And I'm waiting for the final withering away of all governments. And I perpetually am waiting for a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the second coming, and I'm waiting for a religious revival to sweep through the state of Arizona. And I'm waiting for the grapes of wrath to be stored, and I'm waiting for them to prove that God really is American. And I'm waiting to see God on television, piped onto church altars, if only they can find the right channel to tune in on. And I'm waiting for the Last Supper to be served again with a strange new appetizer. And I am perpetually waiting a rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for my number to be called, and I'm waiting for the Salvation Army to take over, and I'm waiting for the meek to be blessed and inherit the earth without taxes. And I'm waiting for the forests and the animals to reclaim the earth as theirs. And I'm waiting for a way to be devised to destroy all nationalisms without killing anybody. And I'm waiting for linnets and planets to fall like rain. And I'm waiting for lovers and weepers to lie down together again in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting for the great divide to be crossed, and I am anxiously waiting for the secret of eternal life to be discovered by an obscure general practitioner. And I'm waiting for the storms of life to be over. And I'm waiting to set sail for happiness. And I'm waiting for a reconstructed Mayflower to reach America with its picture story and TV rights sold in advance to the natives. And I'm waiting for the lost music to sound again in the lost continent in a new rebirth wonder. I am waiting for the day that maketh all things clear. And I'm waiting retribution for what America did to Tom Sawyer. And I am waiting for Alice in Wonderland to retransmit me to her total dreams of innocence. And I'm waiting for Child Roland to come to the final, darkest tower. And I'm waiting for Aphrodite to grow live arms. At a final disarmament conference in a new rebirth of wonder. I am waiting to get some intimations of immortality by recollecting my early childhood. And I'm waiting for the green mornings to come again. Youth's dumb green fields come back again. And I am waiting for some strains of unpremeditated art to shake my typewriter. And I'm waiting to write the great indelible poem. And I'm waiting for the long, careless rapture. And I am perpetually waiting for the fleeing lovers on the Grecian urn to catch up to each other at last and embrace. And I am waiting perpetually and forever a renaissance of wonder.
Thank you, Susan. I first heard that in high school, and it's resonated with me as a call for fresh perspectives to solve ancient problems ever since. Here to share wonders of the ordinary, wonders of an enchanting weekend, and the curious, groundless possibility of wonder are David Lawrence, Martha Allen, and Joan Harmon, whom many of you will remember from our days at UU in Austin.
Good morning. When I was first approached to provide a reflection regarding an account of a personal rebirth or renaissance, I thought they must have me confused with someone else. I'm not a particularly spiritual person. I tend to look at most outcomes as simply the logical consequence of a number of related events. Almost always predictable in hindsight, though not always as apparent in real time. Looking back on my life, I don't find any epic, unforeseeable events that radically changed the course of my life for the better, at least nothing in the sense of the story of Saul on the way to Damascus. Just like everyone else, I've experienced a number of significant life events, but nothing that I considered life-changing. Maybe outside of marriage, and that in itself has been a long, slow, and constantly improving process. Even my parents' passing was not totally unexpected. It was more of a slow decline after a long, fulfilling life. As some of you know, 26 years ago, and again this year, I was diagnosed with throat cancer. I consulted the best medical professions in our area and followed the treatment protocol they prescribed, again, based on well-proven, time-tested procedures. Outside of the normal recovery period, my wife and I did not allow this to radically alter our life. When Sylvia suffered a stroke while we were on vacation in Canada, we were lucky to have one of the top treatment centers in Canada nearby in Calgary, and we're blessed with a number of close friends there to offer support. Although it was definitely a chaotic mimic, we were not allowing it to define our lives since, and under the recovery time, nothing greatly changed. I can think of maybe a dozen books that had deep influence and helped form my personal outlook on life, but again, these were more of a slow, time-tested development, not a rapid or radical change. When I pause for introspection, I find that the arc of my life has been exactly that, an arc whose direction is not radically divergent, but gently shaped by thousands of seemingly minor daily events. Strangely, on multiple days, the importance of the same identical event may vary by multitudes of personal meaning. I think of that first bright red cardinal of spring, and then think of that same cardinal that'll feed her in July, or that first daffodil poking his head up through the snow in early March. Okay, I know this is Austin, but try and use your imagination. I realize that these moments aren't always based on rational, predictable events. Consider the discovery of that single monarch butterfly egg on the underside of a milkweed leaf. The odds are that it will hatch, grow into a caterpillar, and become a butterfly are about 200 or 2 in 100. However, I continue to put hours of effort into growing milkweed, not for the beauty of the flower, but so that it can just be consumed in the origination of that one butterfly. And strangely, I am thrilled when I find that the caterpillars are destroying all of my hard work. In just the last 2 weeks, I've witnessed the miracle of unexpected rain turning the dry, dead remains of a wasted summer into the promise of a prolonged, lush green fall. Every morning I woke to find the rebirth of a long-forgotten native garden plant. One of the maxims bestowed upon me at a very early age by my father was, I hope that you will never lose your sense of wonder. Now that I've reached a certain age, I think that I'm finally at the point in life where I can rest assured of this fact. Most of these wondrous events are almost always present. Often it's just a case of me not stopping to recognize them. For one reason or another, I'm outside in the dark nearly every night. And like most people, I take a quick glance at the stars, experience a brief moment of wonder, and then go about my business. However, every so often, when the conditions are just right or I'm in a particular frame of mind, I stop, and the knowledge that I can see 5 to 10,000 stars momentarily stuns me. Not for the stars that I can see, but for the estimated 200 billion trillion stars that I cannot see. Whether you prescribe to the Zen principle of living in the moment, or prefer the old adage of simply stopping and smelling the roses, I guess I like to take my life-changing epiphanies in small daily doses.
In the late 1990s, I saw an ad for a plein air workshop in Mendocino, California. I was not all that familiar with plein air or outdoor painting, but decided to give it a try. The class was wonderful, and the little town and surrounding areas where we painted were beautiful and interesting. The people in Mendocino were really nice. One lady even moved her car after she saw we were painting the fence and flowers behind her. I learned I could paint outdoors and began to love it. We painted the Pacific Ocean and the Russian River in the park that gets its name from the river. When I saw the Pacific Ocean close up to my feet and heard waves go through holes in rocks and saw the spume, I thought of Lewis and Clark reaching the Pacific after a much longer and more difficult journey. The class was taught by a wonderful instructor who, despite his reputation as a teacher and painter, was worried about meeting the expectations raised by the staff that we would have a week of enchantment. After the beauty, inspiration, good company, and knowledge that I enjoyed, I wrote in my critique of the class that we had truly had that week of enchantment. As wonderful as the town and class were, it was the beginning and end of the trip that gave me an awe and wonder close to a religious experience. I had decided that I just had to see Muir Woods because I had always wanted to see the redwoods, also known as sequoias. I made the detour from the coastal highway between San Francisco and Mendocino, parked and walked into the park. My first sight of a single large redwood made me stop and stare and filled me with wonder. I felt as though I should get to my knees or take off my shoes as I was walking on holy ground. I settled for the tears in my eyes. It was, in the true sense of the word, awesome. I could hardly get my head back far enough to see the top. The gorgeous reddish bark against the green ground was amazing. Inside the park, I was able to hear a Park Service representative talk about the trees, their fire-resistant bark, and their ability to water the plants beneath them, from their leaves, which held the moisture they got from fog and rain. At the end of my week in Mendocino, The threat of fog and fire on the coastal highway led me to go back on Highway 101. On the way to that highway, I passed through another redwood forest. It was early in the morning, and I saw only one car coming the other way, so I could slow down and look. The sun's rays, with dust motes dancing in them, were coming down through those tall trees. It gave the scene the look of a cathedral, with light coming through the windows. The road went through the forest all too quickly, but I have never forgotten the experience of seeing those magnificent trees in the morning light.
Our topic today is about wonder and the rebirth of wonder. To me, the opposite of wonder is certainty and control. Wonder is about groundlessness, possibility, curiosity. We think of young as being more open to fantasy, make-believe, curiosity. As we get older, some feel that we get more set in our ways, more sure of what we think will happen, and less open to wonder and possibility. I spent the early part of my life trying to make certain that I would be on the winning end of the stick. I was meticulous about my work. I worked to do things right, including living healthfully. As I became more experienced in life, I saw that there was really nothing one could do to assure good outcomes. It was decades before I found a spiritual practice that I was comfortable with. In 2004, I stumbled onto Buddhism, Zen, and for the first time, I found teachings that made sense to me. This will be a very rapid and abbreviated summary of some of the main Buddhist teachings. Things are always changing. You best not cling to anything and be prepared for change. There's a bigger picture than just the self-centered movie playing in our heads. Our existence is dependent on grasping that we are part of a bigger thing, and our health is interconnected with, tied to, everyone and every other living entity on earth. Also, there is a way our minds would like things to go. It's fabricated, constructed by our minds, and not how reality unfolds. To hold on to these stories, wishes, beliefs, unrealities will only bring unhappiness. Our love of our minds has led us to value what we think more than what our bodies are telling us. We need to remind ourselves that the mind is only a part of our body, and the whole bodily experience must be valued. In 2016, I became surprisingly and desperately ill with stage 4 melanoma. Without treatment, I might have had 6 months to live. I had been with my mother when she had gone through chemotherapy, and I questioned whether I was that interested in prolonging my life. However, there was a newly approved immunotherapy treatment for advanced melanoma that allowed 60% of the people taking it to live longer. I started treatment. I was amazed at how I felt emotionally during this time. I was 64 years old and had hoped to live longer, maybe as long as my parents had lived, who were the first to die among their siblings. I was surprised to find that I was filled with gratitude for all I had and all I had experienced. Love, a family, good food, friends, travel, and on and on. I was so filled with gratitude that I had no room for fear, blame, resentment, anger, envy. Now, I had plenty of sadness, but there was no room for the negative emotions. I believe this came in part from my practice of recognizing that all things change. I believe that I learned to stop resisting reality and wanting to impose my own ideas on how things should be and how I wanted them to be. And this would only make me more unhappy, that I was part of something bigger. Later, the treatment started causing serious side effects. I developed diarrhea so intense that treatment was discontinued. I received staggering amounts of steroids and Lomotil with every episode, but the diarrhea raged on and on. One night, things were so bad that I was sleeping on the floor because I just could not get close enough to the toilet. All the matter was gone from my bowels, all the fluid. The only thing left was a toxic, explosive gas that roiled in my intestines. Every once in a while, some of the gas would escape and burn my anus. It was then that I was finally able to separate from what was going on in my body. I was able to see from my larger self that my digestive system was absolutely terrified by what was going on in my body and was pulling out the nuclear option, throwing everything possible at these foreign chemicals to get them out. It was then that I was able to start using my practice to help me. I started wrapping my intestines with compassion, telling them I knew they were scared. They'd let these new chemicals in, and now they decided they had made a mistake and were going to do everything in their power to get them out of there. But I assured them that it seemed like these chemicals were helping and my digestive system could just relax. I appreciated all they had done for me, but I thought that everything would be okay. It was at that moment that the gases just dissipated, and I began my recovery in earnest. I told the nurse practitioner about this, and she just rolled her eyes. And it's true. I was taking all sorts of medication to make the diarrhea stop, but it was at the moment when my mind and body worked together that it finally did. I had used my practice once again in my greatest time of need. Now, I don't know that my effort to have my body and mind work together really made the diarrhea stop. That remains unknown, unknowable. But what I have learned is to be open to the unexpected, to the unknowing. One of our biggest delusions is that of knowing. Our brains spend a lot of time creating knowing and creating stories that make what is happening make sense to us. The problem comes when we believe those stories. There may be some truth in the stories we create, but we will never have enough information to develop ironclad truths because situations are very complex. Our perspective is very narrow, and things are always changing. As for my melanoma story, the one that 60% of the stage 4 patients who get the immunotherapy treatment live longer, of those, a very few, go into long-term remission and live for years, perhaps dying of other causes. It appears that I may be one of those. Who knew?
Get to your,
Who could know?
on this, I have to put in that password.
Our world is filled with wonder. May we embrace possibility and come to understand and accept that knowing and certainty are only delusion.
Thank you, Susan, David, Martha, and Joan, for sharing your inspirational life stories of wonder and what that means to you. You know, there's wonder all around us. Watch this short video where nothing short of a miracle happens. Oh, the freshness of natural wonder. We realize, however, that unfortunately, not all wonder is wonderful. Today marks 21 years since we all, collectively around the world, held our breaths in bewilderment as 9/11 unfolded with its previously unimaginable and ongoing ramifications. Please take a moment now to reflect on that time, to honor our resilience, to remind ourselves that positive wonder will reign again and again and again, despite inhumane circumstances. I will close today's service with the words of John Gordon. We need to stay positive in spite of life's hardships. Give yourself and others grace. Speak life and encourage others. Look for the good today. Remember your why. Believe that the best is yet to be. Each of us is capable of a renaissance of wonder. We need not but summon it.
Thank you, Robin. And thank you, everybody, for attending today. I especially want to thank our presenters, but lovely to see your faces. We have a couple of announcements before we go into our love ritual and joys and concerns and community time. And we hope that y'all can stick around for joys and concerns, but if not, you'll leave us, hopefully, then give us time to talk about these announcements. And then after joys and concerns, community time. But right now, David has our first announcement about our newly made up holiday that we're going to celebrate September 18th. So I'll let David tell you about that announcement.
I just wanted to make sure and invite everyone next Sunday at Dick Nichols Park. We'll be celebrating our first annual Interdependence Day, which is our way of showing our interdependence on each other's relationship. It's an opportunity for us to come together And I will be sending out another announcement this week with all the particulars, but Dick Nichols Park next Sunday from 10:30 to 2:30. At 11:30, we'll have a short program followed by our luncheon. So bring anything you'd like to eat, anything you'd like to share, anything you'd like to drink. We'll have ice, all the utensils, and looking forward to seeing everyone. Hope you can make it there. And it's a covered pavilion, so we'll be out of the sun. Thank you.
Great, thanks. It should be a great afternoon, morning and afternoon. Looking forward to seeing it and being there with y'all. Just a reminder, our next Sunday service is October 9th, and we have a special guest, and her name is Wilka Roig, somebody that Robin Loving knows and is bringing to us. She's president of the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross Center, and she has so many things in her wheelhouse. I can't even begin to tell you all. It would take us, till this afternoon. So hopefully you can tune in on October 9th for that second Sunday service. Okay, if you gotta go, we're gonna sign you out with love. If you can stay, Joan will facilitate our joys and concerns. So give everybody your sign of love, hugs, kisses, love ya. Go out with an open heart and open mind. Do good things. Love you guys. Bye.